Okay, I was saying that I shared yesterday's recording. Sorry, I uploaded. So when you click the same link that I had shared during our first session, you'll be able to see it. But in case you have any challenges, you let me know. But it is the same link. When you click, you are able to see all the videos with regards to this class. Let me confirm once more if I'm audible.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Felix. So today we are going to look at a different thing, but it is always good to have a recap uh, of what we learned yesterday. So yesterday we introduced machine learning, whereby we said it is a state-of-the-art approach to data science. And what came out very clearly with regards to machine learning is that we have very minimal human engagement, whereby those algorithms are able to perform tasks that uh, like you are unable to understand what is happening inside the algorithm, but the output, of course, you'll be able to interpret and see the results. So another thing, we defined an algorithm. We said that one thing about algorithms, we said it needs to run through several trial and errors, like several trials and so on, for them to be perfect. Like the more trials the algorithms go through, the better, or the better the output or the prediction power and so on. After that, we introduced types of machine learning. We looked at supervised learning, and we say that this one mostly works when you are dealing with organized data. Then after that, we looked at unsupervised learning. We said this one, if data is not labeled, sorry, the supervised is for labeled data, unsupervised and labeled. Then we looked at reinforcement learning, whereby we say that this one focuses more on performance and so on. And we say that robots are built using reinforcement learning. After that, we looked at some of the applications of machine learning. We said one on fraud detection, then also client retention and so on, in terms of targeted campaigns, among many others. After that, we looked at who uses machine learning. We said that a data scientist is the main person, but in case you want to specialize in machine learning alone, then you will be called a machine learning engineer. Then we went further and looked at artificial intelligence. We say that artificial intelligence is that ability of machines to mimic human behavior. Like they are able to do what human beings can do. And we looked at various types of artificial intelligence. We looked at text artificial intelligence, like whatever you are seeing. I don't know if you can see my screen when I'm speaking. You can see the captions are being captured. That's text AI. We looked at visual AI, analytic AI, functional AI, and interactive AI. But today, I want us to introduce something a bit different, what we call data governance, data governance and privacy. So this is something I think in Kenya already we have seen some companies that have already gotten into a wrong position. We have been seeing the Office of the Data Protection Commission publishing such information and so on. But this is something that several jurisdictions are putting in place some regulations to be able to govern or to guide the industry and individuals with regards to data privacy issues. And also I saw Nigeria, they were able to pass the laws and also the regulations and so on. So what you need to know maybe when we come to this specific class, of course, I'll give you also room maybe to ask further questions or to contribute. So you need to be aware when you are working with data, especially what you call personally identifiable information, which requires some significant legal and regulatory compliance. So the main reason why you need to be aware when you are working with data, especially personally identifiable information, is because any potential failure could mean serious consequences. You can be sued, you can get fined, and you can as well lose consumer trust. Like for instance, you have given us your data for the purposes of communication with regards to this training and any other communication from AfriCDSA. Then tomorrow you hear that there's a microfinance institute or lender calling you, asking you for if you require a loan. Then when you try to ask, where did you get my information from? Then you are told maybe we got from AfriCDSA. Then you wonder how did it happen and so on. So you see, it means that you can lose even trust apart from the legal suits and so on. You can lose trust in an organization and so on. This is another thing. I want to add another thing. There was a time whereby I think it was KRA or the government, they wanted to go and snoop our data, like our financial transaction data, that's M-Pesa mobile money data, so that they are able to see the amount of money that people are transacting and so on. So you see, the contract that we are having, in case you are using mobile money, it is between you as an individual with that company, and that there was nowhere where the government maybe was given an authority to access, unless if it is a court order and so on, things that are very specific and clear. So if maybe Safaricom or any other telecommunication shares your personal data without your consent, I think that could lead to people losing trust and so on. Even nowadays in Kenya, for instance, you are seeing a situation whereby uh, the Kenya Revenue Authority agents are going into businesses, the small, the informal sector, scanning their tail numbers they want to monitor, and people are dropping the tail numbers and so on. So you can see such kind of cases. So as I proceed, what is happening is that regulations are being introduced to tighten up how companies collect, store, and use data. Like, how are you collecting this data? How are you storing this data? And for what purpose are you collecting this data for? So in most cases, you are recommended that when you are working in practice ourselves, that you need specialist legal advice, because you need to understand the Data Protection Act and regulations for you to be well averse with what is happening. And these organizations, yes, they have legal departments. They can also arrange data protection training workshops and so on. So, but also sometimes you find out that businesses are successful with insights that they obtain from third-party data. So when you are building a business with key business processes that are relying on data, it is very, very crucial for you to be the owner of that data. So, but owning data is another thing, different, but why should you own this data and so on? So you make sure you own data for, first of all, important business operations like communication, and so on. You also own this data for critical decision making, like they are able to make decisions based on data that you are having. Then for monetization, but for monetization, it depends with which kind of data. I just want to give you an example. There is one startup called Wazi. Um, what they do, they have what called mappers. Like they have employed youths, just download their mobile application. You undergo the process of becoming a mapper. Then after that, so they can send you maybe to maybe a certain marketplace, and you are all there. Maybe they are going to ask, you are going to ask those people selling maybe tomatoes, onions and so on, the prices per kg and so on. So these people are able to collect that data in various regions of Africa. Then they take photos if you give consent, and the data is being sent. So you find out that organizations, let us say foreign organizations that want to invest in Africa, they need such kind of data to be able to know how the market is doing and so on. So such kind of data, they monetize it, they analyze and sell it to make us their main service and so on. So, but also when owning this data, we have what called data ownership fundamental aspect. So first of all, you need to own any data that is necessary to your business, necessary to your business. Then, apart from just owning this data, you have the necessary rights and permissions to collect and use the data. That's why, for instance, in Kenya, nowadays, companies, organizations, schools, and so on are required to register either as a data controller or a data processor. So, like when you're collecting your personal data, you need to have those licenses and so on, is a requirement. So, I don't know, maybe I can hear from a colleague from Uganda the kind of regulations that are there. I don't know if he's in today or is yet to join. Okay, yeah, you can proceed, because already in Kenya we are aware of these regulations. Like it is something not, I wanted to hear from Uganda as well, the developments that are happening there and so on. So another thing on the data ownership fundamentals, as I have said, you own data that is necessary to your business, then have the necessary rights and permissions to collect and use the data. Um, of course, also you ensure the correct rights are in place and so on. So we have also what called best practices or practice for verifying data rights. So how can I verify? Today, maybe I sent to you an email saying that, maybe inviting you for a CV training like the one that we had last Saturday. Then you asked me, where did you get my email and so on. So as a company, it is important to have what called metadata. Metadata is data on data. Like if during your admission process, you submit the actual data that we want, right, for processing of your admission. But as a company, we keep what we call metadata, whereby we know when and where was the data collected, what permissions were given, and so on. So it is very important that in organizations you ensure that any data that is collected, you keep the meta, because if a client maybe wants to take advantage of the existing regulations to take you or report you to ODPC, Office of Data Protection Commissioner, and so on, you are able to produce justifiable evidence and say, we collected this data on this day, and this was the purpose of the collection, and we are using it for that specific purpose. You have proof. But if you cannot explain when did you collect the data and so on, then it becomes a challenge. So the best practice for verifying data, guys, first of all, you need to know when and where was the data collected and what permissions were given. Then after that, another thing now we want to look into, we have what called the general data protection regulations. Of course, as I said that we have the specific data protection regulations for each and every jurisdiction or country, we have those general. And this one, it is a new legislation by the European Union to protect what we call personal data. So basically, this one defines standardized data protection laws. Is like in accounting, we have like IFRS, International Financial Reporting Standards 9, I don't know, 11, and what, all those. It's like a standard, something that guides certain how something should be done and so on. So the generalized data protection regulations define standardized data protection laws. And for companies failing to comply, a fine up to 20 million euros is applied and so on. So it is something that is very serious. Like the issue of data privacy nowadays is very serious. But whatever you need to take note in this session before I give you room to ask questions or to contribute more to this topic of data protection, you need to remember every day when handling data, especially with personal identifiable information, that private data has to be protected. Second is that private data must be used for the purpose for which it was handed over. Third, you need to communicate to users what data you are going to collect from them and how it will be used, like the purpose of that data. You need to, someone needs to be aware, why do you need this information for? So, sorry, that is all about the highlights and data governance and privacy. But as I said yesterday, that you take time for those, I'll try to access there's a data protection handbook for those in Kenya that was issued by the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner. I look for other jurisdictions because I'm aware like Nigeria have one. Rwanda, we have also some kind of regulations. Tanzania and Uganda, not so much developed, but they are in the process of coming up with such kind of regulations. But now, let me use this opportunity for you to be able to ask questions on data governance and privacy before we proceed further. It can be questions or contributions. Yeah, basically. Okay, we start from Alex.
On data governance, um, when when making a decision on how to operate, you know, um, around data that we have now, do we normally pick, or rather, as a company, data governance now to be put in place, do we normally pick feedback from customers so that we now take the next line of action on how to protect their data?
Okay. So already what happens is that um, already we have companies have put in place measures uh, or policies to be able, like when you go to Safaricom today and you purchase maybe a SIM card or you are going to open an M-Pesa account, there's a form that already you fill. It is only that people don't read those forms. But when you read that form, it outlines all information about your data, how it will be used, and so on. So, same to when you are opening maybe a bank account and so on. That one, companies have put in place also some kind of um, um, procedures, policies to be able to ensure that when they collect this data, the customer is aware. Of course, the customers do not read. To avoid a situation whereby maybe every time Safaricom wants to send you a blast message, they have to come back and ask. That one is not possible and it cannot be practical in real world and so on. So that one is done always in advanced. They don't have to keep on taking surveys and so on. When you go, for instance, to a bank to open a bank account, you are being asked your ID details and any other details. The purpose is for you to be able to transact that account, for the bank to be able to verify that you are the true person who holds that account and so on. So what I can say is that it is not possible that every time a company wants you are maybe to make communication for the data that they already hold about you to notify you, but they have already put some interventions or measures to ensure that that one is done at the time of acquisition of that data. That's why also companies have data privacy policies in their website and so on. So Alex, I hope your question has been answered.
That is okay. Another one. Um, Now, for us to be able to lay down the rules around how we handle data, um, I remember when we started this, when we started this introduction course, there was someone who touched on, and I think it was on the WhatsApp group, if I can remember well, that asked that if at any point within our introduction, if we can check on cybersecurity. Now, that is not my question, but can we say that rules around data governance, most of them are developed or rather improved on due to emerging issues like cyber criminals are increasing day and night, something like that.
Yes, it is true, because in the past, especially when people used to, there was not so much technology, we did not have a lot of issues whereby you just find someone calling you and so on. The issues of uh, data breaches, like people infringing your privacy, people trying to um, that to take over your privacy, like in terms of without your consent, like your information, your private information, has been accelerated by what called the fourth industrial revolution. The information nowadays is all over. Even ourselves, you just find out people are posting on social media all information about their private lives, personal lives, and so on. So it is social media and other kind of data, social media and other kind of platforms and the recent technological advancement that has accelerated this. And therefore, that's why you see now most countries or jurisdictions now are coming up with regulations to try and give guidance that this is how we should go around with the information collect. Yeah, that's true that it is because of this technology that has also led to a lot of issues with regards to data privacy. Any other
That is
questions?
clear.
Okay, thank you. But before maybe we get another question, I think those people in the medical field, I don't know if we have anyone here dealing with medical related or health records. I think for them, even before this technology and the regulations, they were signing some kind of forms to protect the patient's data. Do you have anyone who has ever worked or working in the medical field to confirm this?
Yes, yes, that has been the norm. And for example, with the advent of strategies, treatment strategies and interventions around diseases like HIV, we've witnessed a very rapid and strong development of rules and frameworks that govern data protection, particularly around patient confidentiality and privacy at the level of clinicians, as well as within the electronic medical record systems. In this case, I'm talking, for example, HIV, where healthcare workers have gone to a point of even using national IDs to identify patients, and there is a national data warehouse that collects this information, and respective providers, for example, if a patient is transferring from facility X in county B, we're still able to identify this patient in terms of their treatment and in terms of their records that's available in the national data warehouse and in the systems that are available. But there are strong frameworks that govern the accessibility to this information, um, the rights to the patients are adhered to, and also the laws of the country. Besides that, there are also regulations around electronic medical record systems that whoever is deploying, maintaining, and even working around them has to observe.
Okay, thank you so much for the insights. So based on Luther's insights, it is clear that like the medical sector has already been ahead in terms of the issues of data privacy. And as he said that mostly due to some diseases like HIV, that maybe when someone's status are being shared, you get stigma and so on. So thank you so much with regards to the insights. Anyone else who has any question or additional information with regards to data governance and privacy? Okay, I think that is fine. So I'll share the guidebooks, those in Kenya, and also I try to look from other jurisdictions so that you can have a look at it. And also the Act, it is there in the ODPC, Office of the Data Protection Commissioner's website, and so on. So let us look at another thing or a new concept on what called modern data management practices. So when we are talking about modern data management practices, we are talking about methodologies on data management that can enable organizations to make better decisions and gain the necessary capabilities to address current operational challenges and so on. But let us first of all define what is modern data management practices. And I just want to start off by giving just an overview. So in today's knowledge economy, I can say that few organizations, very few, will be able to debate that data is now one of their most important assets. So what it means is that nowadays it is often critical to service delivery at many organizations. That's in terms of data, like it is a crucial asset. Other people are saying that data is the new oil and so on for companies and so on. But one thing that also we should be keen about it is that processing this data too late can be disastrous to a company or organization. Also, if we allow or we see this data being stolen or compromised, can as well be very destructive to organizations or companies and so on. So data is becoming an asset, but like any other asset, it means that there's need for it to be managed with a lot of care and so on. So when we are talking about data management, basically, we are talking about managing the way data is collected, one. Two, how it is stored. Three, how it is protected and processed to optimize operations and assist in decision making. So we are looking at ways like when talking about data management, we are talking about how this data is collected, how is it stored, how is it protected, how is it processed to optimize operations and assist in decision making. But because the definition here was modern data management practices, so what is happening is that the requirements and organizational needs are changing, and also the volume of data that is being generated and processed by organizations continue to grow. So it means also that the approaches to data management have also to like the approaches to this data management have also to be modernized for it to be able to adapt to change and so on. So when we are talking about now the modern data management practices, it refers to all the practices that help to streamline and improve traditional data management processes in order to address the challenges of today and prepare organizations for the future ones and help these organizations fully leverage the value of their information. So it means like for in the past, if your data in the organization, which was traditionally was stored in SQL server, structured query language server, you need to move it to a server that can be able to store both structured and unstructured data, what you call warehouses. And we have some databases like there's another one called Postgres. Database is able to store both structured and unstructured data and so on. So now, in that term we are talking about now, when you want to streamline and improve traditional data management processes to address the challenges of today and also prepare this organization for the future one, we are talking about how the modern data management practices and so on. But now, how are we going to achieve this? How are we going to achieve modern uh, data management practices? First of all, you need to define goals. Like as an organization or as a company, you need to know what do you want to achieve. So it means that this one should be very clear what your high level aspirations are with regards to data before you invest in a system to support the ambitions, because transitioning into a new system as an organization, sometimes it involves a lot of investment. So you need to be very clear what do you need to achieve before you make that decision. What are the metrics that you are trying to maximize or to minimize? And how do you want to measure? What sort of analysis will help to refine your approach over time? And what sort of processes do we want to digitize and why? So, for you to achieve modern data management practices, first of all, you need to define what you need to achieve before you make a decision. Then, the second thing that is very crucial, you need to start simple and build up. Because the main reason you need to start simple and build up is because when you invest in a new enterprise data management platform, it can be a very difficult process. So you need to know where are you going to start. The recommendation under the best practices to achieve modern data management um, um, is that you need to start with small use cases that are clear to you now. Then after that, you work up from there, adding maybe more teams, more functions, more processes, and metrics over time. Because when you're talking about modern data management, we are talking about resources in terms of financial resources, human capital, because you need also people who are able to operate these new systems. You need functions, you need processes, metrics over time, and so on. So you need to start simple and build up. Another thing in to achieve modern data management process is that you need to have a clear documentation. So it means that as you develop data architecture for you and your team, and also your use cases, it is a good idea to invest in clear naming conventions for folders and data tables, unique identifiers for data records, and so on. So this will ensure that if you have a clear documentation, it means you have a more sustainable system that can continue to function well despite changes in human resource over time. This clear documentation will prevent a way in such a way that if today maybe Mr. Njoroge leaves the organization, then the whole department is dead, because even if you are going to bring in a new person, there's no clear documentation and so on. So the purpose of clear documentation is for continuity purposes in case an employee leaves an organization. Another thing is data quality. We say garbage in, garbage out. So what this one means is that you need to give careful attention to how you design data collection instruments to ensure they minimize the potential for human error and stay relevant despite changes in other parts of the systems. Like you try to ensure that there is minimal human error in the data that is being collected. Another one, we have what we call an audit trail. An audit trail just will assist you to understand what happens to your data over time. Like invest in systems that can keep track of changes. What we mean here, let me just give an example. Today, if you have a Google folder that you do save documents, like a shared folder there, then you have given different people access using their individual emails. When someone deletes anything, you are able to do an audit to know the person who logged at what time and what did they do and so on. So an audit trail is something that you are able to follow up to know what happened at what time. So a modern data management system should be a system that you are able to do an audit trail. If there's data breaches and so on, you are able to follow and know it is so and so who accessed this system at this time, and therefore most likely they are the ones who caused this and so on. Then another one, there must be a balance between accessibility and security. There must be a balance between accessibility and security. So basically what it means nowadays, uh, uh, due to data privacy issues, organizations have put some controls, internal controls in the organizations, whereby maybe if someone is the head of that department that ensures, like someone, a specific person is given control, like a specific person is given what we call them a super admin, something like that, that is the main person who controls the systems and so on. So therefore, if you have been given that right to be a super admin, maybe of a certain system and so on, and you are working with your colleagues who also rely to access the same data, so there should be a balance between accessibility and security. Yes, we are protecting security of the information, but are we able to access it, whatever we need at the right time, so that we are able to proceed with our work and so on. The last one, as one of the best practices to achieve modern data management, is carefully review cybersecurity provisions of systems used. Like the system used should not be vulnerable to attacks by hackers and so on. So you ensure that it is also good to do what called a system audit. We have companies that do IT system audits, especially those that are accredited by ISACA. ISACA is a global organization mostly that deals with accreditation of courses that deal with cyber security and so on. So you need to be able to even do a system audit to see how strong your system is and so on. So those are some of the best practices to achieve modern data management. First of all, they are saying that first ensure your goals are clear. You start simple and build up because it is an expensive process. You need a clear documentation for continuity. You need to ensure there's data quality at the point of collection of data. A system should be able to have an audit trail to keep track of records on who accessed at what time and what were they looking for. Then there should be a balance between accessibility and security, and there is need to carefully review cybersecurity provisions for the system, whereby a system audit can be done and so on. So I like now to open again room for questions. Any questions with regards to modern data management practices and best practices to achieve modern data management? Any question? Okay, in case you don't have a question, let us look at the last thing under modern data management, then we close there. So we have what called the characteristics of modern data management. First of all, it should be user-centric. So what it means is that in an organization, as much as you are trying to implement the modern data management processes, collecting data for data's sake adds little value. So what it means is that the data strategy should reflect organizational objectives and be led not by the IT department, but by business users themselves. I want you to take that one. It should not be the people from IT who are leading the data-driven strategy in the organization, but it should be business users themselves. So it means the system should reflect the needs of the users they are serving, and therefore different teams and people fill different roles. Meaning that in an organization, an enterprise data management platform and approaches should deliver different processes for different user personas. What does it mean? Like, if my role, maybe I'm the CEO and I'm only interested on the dashboard, that's what I should see. I'm not interested maybe on the technical side, how you did the analysis and so on. Another person is interested on that side that is able to do the manipulation. Another person is interested on where is he or she is able to query data from a database and so on. So it should be user centric. Another one is security. Is that as more information is digitized, the risk of theft or leaks are greater. So a modern data management approach puts security at the forefront, not only in terms of infrastructure or software, but um, um, we have other provisions that can also be considered in terms of data governance models. And this one can be done to ensure that only the users that need certain data to deliver their functions have access to them. Like, it means that in an organization, when we mean security, not let us not just deal with the security that is related to the software and hardware. Also, we are talking about the users, the employees of the company. So we ensure that only those people who need this data have access to it, so that in case of anything, it is easy to narrow down and know who mess up with the data. Another characteristic of modern data management is cost optimized. So applying cost optimization techniques to a modern data management program is crucial to reduce cost, maximize the business value, and increase the operational efficiency of all data management initiatives. Maybe one way to reduce cost, for instance, when we come to data visualization, for instance, uh, Power BI, we have Power BI, we have Tableau, uh, we have another visualization tool that is being owned by Google. It is called Google Data Studio. So if you find one there for you to use, you need to pay. You go for a free one, because all of them will give you the same results and so on. And you go for a free one, not because it is free, but it can give you the same result, but it is also stable and easy to use. That was just an example. Another thing about modern data management, the characteristic is that it should be centralized. What it means is that under modern data management thinking, data silos should be a thing of the past and mitigated. Also, disconnected systems not only generate duplication, but also confuse and slow down the ability of an organization to have a single version of the truth, which can drastically affect our ability to respond to challenges and preempt issues. What this one means is that I need data maybe to analyze, but you find this data is not in a centralized place. You have to, the data is scattered all over. You go here, look at some data, you come here. So with such kind of information, it can lead to duplication and so on. So uh, we need to have a centralized system that if I need any data, I can access in one area and so on. The last one is cloud first, whereby we are saying that data should be accessible regardless of where the people that need it find themselves at the time they need to make a decision. Like I should be able to access this data remotely wherever I am when I need it for business purposes and so on. So these are some of the characteristics of modern data management: user centricity, saying that it should be driven by people who are using it. The issues of security, we have said, both in terms of the technical, the hardware, software, and people using it. The term, we have cost, the issue of cost, it should be affordable, centralized, data should not be scattered, then cloud first, it should be accessible anywhere for those who need it. So that's the end of our session, but let me know if we have any questions before we officially close. Any questions? Okay, so in case you don't have questions, um, so our last class with regards to this unit will be on Monday. After that, I'll give a small, it will be on Monday. I'll give you Wednesday, a Tuesday, Wednesday. And then on Thursday, you do some assessment with regards to this unit. Then before you move to the next unit on statistics, statistics for data science and analytics, which will be practical, you'll be required to have your laptop. That's Monday. Which Monday? The Monday that we are going will be on 4th. Monday after 4th will be on 11th. Yeah. So on the recording, I'm going to upload the recording. When you click the first link, you will just get all the links or the recordings in one area. And in case you face any difficulty, please, you can always inbox me and I'll be able to address. Thank you all for attending today's session. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.